This notice will inform the public of the regular meeting of the Edgewater Planning Board on Monday, April 28, 2014 at 7 a.m. This meeting will be held at the Edgewater Borough Hall, 55 River Road, Edgewater, New Jersey. Can we please rise for the salute of the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call the roll, please.
Okay. Mrs. Kelly? Here. Councilman Bartolomeo?
Here.
Mr. Christensen?
Here.
Mr. Phillips?
Here.
Mr. Levine?
Here.
Mr. McPartland?
Here.
And Chairman O'Connor.
Here. Also Catherine Gregg, our planner, Dan Kaufman, the engineer, and Craig Poisson from Florida Carucci. Craig is the new representative for the planning board. Paul has left us. He left the firm to do a better job. God bless him. We have the master plan re-examination report we're going to be going over tonight. But first, last meeting I said that we have enacted a 5-minute rule. I went back to our former council. We could not find the document, so we'd like to discuss that tonight. I know that every other board in the town has it. I believe we've been going on and using it that way, and we haven't fair to the public, let them go on if they're asking valid questions. So we have a resolution prepared for a 5-minute rule and for 10 p.m. curfew, which we've been working on that. We just want to now just put it formalized. Any questions or comments on that?
Mr. Chairman, in respect to the 5-minute rule, sometimes, I mean, you're limited in the public to ask legitimate questions, and I think sometimes 5 minutes is not a reasonable time. As far as the plan, the board of adjustment, I don't have a 5 minutes.
Oh, you don't?
Because the general public has an opportunity to come up and question the applications and the professional that are done, and a lot of times it takes a little bit longer than 5 minutes.
I think this board is always
I'm new to this board, so I can't honestly say, but I know as
I
far
think
as,
this board is always.
my board, you know, the Board of Adjustment, you know, we allow the public, you know, as long as they're asking legitimate questions, you know.
Well, that's the whole point. I mean, we can go back a couple times.
I don't think it's really right to give them 5 minutes. That's my opinion.
And the other,
If I may say, I mean, it's good to have the safety net in place when questions do get duplicated and on and on, so.
I think any time anybody's asked any valid questions, we have definitely taken time and respected that. Sometimes when people come up with more generalizations than going on about it. I think there's other people on the board that have been there for a while for us. Howie, you've been on the board for years, we put that into place. Emma, you have to.
The challenge, though, is that we have let it go beyond. If we do have a rule such as, and you have to keep to it, is then you get the question, well, so-and-so you gave so-and-so 10 minutes on a previous meeting, why are you giving me the 10 minutes this time? So if we enact it, it's got to be held true, or we just get rid of it altogether. You know, whichever way we go, we can't half enforce it.
Then how do you do that if someone's coming up and they're generalizing and they're making statements and not asking questions? And that's why I said.
Agree on that concern, but we're saying you can't have to enforce it.
You know, the curfew helps. I mean, you're saying it's a 10 o'clock curfew, and I think the chairman should be in charge, and you do a very good job of that, of determining whether or not a questioning or series of questions are going on and on. And I think everybody would generally agree to that now. You know, I mean, like they're saying, if you're going to put a 5-minute question, or maybe 10 minutes, is 10 minutes too long? Is 15 minutes too long? Is an hour too long for one line of questioning? I think that's up to the chairman to determine. But I guess what you're saying, because we did have that problem last time, it's a tough one. Maybe
Well,
you know, either I don't know. It's a tough one. At that determination, can the board take a quick vote? Are we done with this line of questioning? I mean, what? I don't know how we don't know how to come up with something like that. Maybe just give it 15 minutes or 10 minutes.
Why don't we table this then, for everybody to think about it for the next meeting?
Okay.
We'll see how it goes.
Perhaps call the 10 o'clock curfew into effect just officially, and then table the 5-minute rule as that were.
Good idea.
We have a motion for that.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, motion for a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Carries. Okay, we're gonna table the 5-minute rule, and we're gonna have the 10 o'clock curfew, which, same thing as always, the line of questions will stop at 9:30. So if we have professionals up there, and it's gonna go later, we'll use our judgment, but this way we're not gonna be here until 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
Okay? Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Tonight we're looking at the master plan periodic reexamination report. Catherine?
Good evening. We're here tonight to discuss some revisions to the master plan reexamination since our last meeting, which was back in February. We had a 2-month hiatus. I did a little bit of data collection during that time at the suggestion of some of the board members. And first, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go through the changes and actually some corrections that I'd like to make here at the public meeting regarding the document that you actually have in your hand. In however many times I reviewed this, sometimes there are things that slide by a pair of eyes. And in some discussions between either myself and Dan Kaufman and or members of the public, there have been certain things that came to light that were indeed conflicted between the map and also the block and lot table. So I'd like to just go through the changes. Small change on page 5, under B, extent to which such problems and objectives have been reduced or have increased. It did used to say since 2004, that was incorrect. Now it is correct, it says 2010. On page 17, on section 1, number of use variances granted, that particular section has been reformatted. On page 20, changes at the county level. There is a completely new section contained within the master plan reexamination, and that addresses a study that was done by the county entitled the River Road Hudson Waterfront Corridor Strategy, a Phase 2 study. That document, I do have a copy of it with me tonight. This is actually just the document, not the appendices. The appendices are quite lengthy, so I did not print it out. But it is available for anyone to review if they would like to. And I'll get back to the substantive changes, but I just wanted to go through, like I said, some changes and corrections. Again, on page 23, I reformatted the section creation of mixed-use districts and also changes to reflect current land use patterns and promote transit-oriented development. When I looked at it again, it looked a little confusing to me. It wasn't really succinct and clear, so therefore I reformatted it. And I think it makes a lot more sense now because we're introducing the mixed-use districts, and then we're recommending land use changes and zoning changes. And lastly, I'd like to turn to the table, which is on page 26, table 15, recommended zoning changes by block and lot. Okay, starting at the top, the first row, block 80, lot 1, and we're going to go by block and lot because it's really a lot easier since it's numerically organized. The recommended zone should be R5, not MXD2. So that is a change which is reflected on the map but is not reflected here on this table. Another point is Block 86, Lot 3, Block 86, Lot 4.01, Block 86, 4.02, Block 86, 5.01, Block 86, Lot 6, and Block 86, Lot 10. They are all incorrectly identified as the existing zone being B4, and they are actually R40. So all of those are R40, and at this time they were recommended to be R3. And there has been some discussion about not rezoning these properties, and I think that will be a subject of discussion this evening by the board. If we go down to block 88, lot 11.01, that will be eliminated. It is not recommended for rezoning. It is correct on the map. It is not correct on the table, so that should be taken out, which would be 280 Old River Road. Then we have block 90, lot...
What was that last correction, please?
I'm sorry, block 88, lot 11.01.
Okay.
It should not be rezoned. So in other words, it is not being rezoned to R5, it should stay B2. It is correct on the map, it is not correct here on the table, so this will be eliminated. Block 90, lot 41.01 should also be eliminated. This is not recommended to be rezoned, and in fact, there is a deed restriction on this property. But with that said, it is not going to be rezoned. So again, 65 Gorge Road should be taken out. It is shown correctly.
Delete.
Yes, should be deleted. It should be deleted. It is shown correctly on the map, but it is not shown correctly on the table. And then on the next page, on page 27, block 96, lot 3.03 should be zoned R5, not MXD1, as recommended, not existing, as recommended. And then the next one, block 96, lot 3.04, should be zoned MXD1. I somehow inverted those two. Again, and these are two properties that are not officially on the tax map, or a result of the subdivision, thus maybe a little bit of a confusion. And then just as well, block 96, lot 4.01, right underneath it, should also be rezoned to R5. It is not staying OR1, otherwise it wouldn't have been in this table, but it is included in this table, so it should be rezoned R5. And then the last line should be eliminated. It's actually a double count from the first line. If you notice, there's a block 80 and 1, and a recommendation was made here, but we've already covered it in the first line, and 79-1 is actually owned by the borough, so that should be taken out completely or deleted. So with that said, I'd like to address a few of the concerns at the last meeting. Namely, I believe that the topics of discussion were school children and traffic. Those are the two, I think, big ticket items. In terms of school children, we did receive data from the Board of Education. And what we have found is that the mid-rise projects, multi-family projects in the borough, originally when we did the study, the 2012 land use study, community facility study, there were one student for every 10.73 dwelling units. Now that ratio is at 10.35. So technically it's gotten worse, but not by much. That's sort of, the numbers are very similar. In terms of the high-rise development, the numbers were back in 2012, if you recall, the ratio of one student to the number of dwelling units, it was one student for every 21 dwelling units. Now it's at 1 per 16, so that has increased. But the fact remains is that the high-rise developments obviously have less number of children per dwelling units than the multifamily, than the mid-rise or low-rise multifamily developments. We've also noted that at the time of the last meeting, we talked about a study that the Board of Education was doing in terms of school projections, and as of last Friday, I was told that it is not complete yet. It was supposed to be done in April of this year. We still don't have that information to date. So we are awaiting that information, and it will be addressed as we get that information. I think another part of this, which I think is very significant, would be the study that was done by the county. So I invite you to take a look at page 20. So the study was undertaken and completed in June of 2013. And it was undertaken to promote regional and multi-jurisdictional strategies to better accommodate pedestrians, bicyclists, and transit riders in the River Road corridor. And as stated in the executive summary, while improvements to River Road have been made incrementally by Bergen County over the years, the study is to provide an opportunity to view the corridor as a whole, addressing issues and recommending improvements necessary for future development. The study has examined access and safety with respect to transit services, as well as continuity and connectivity for pedestrians and bicyclists. And I know that that was a big point of contention with a lot of the residents, that they were very upset that they could not walk places because we did not have sidewalks along River Road. But as we all well know, River Road is under county jurisdiction. And again, I always thought that the borough promoted transit-friendly, walkable, pedestrian-oriented type development. The issue is that we can't physically make changes to a road, however, we can support them. So what this study found, which I thought was very apropos, is that it actually supports the type of zoning that we've proposed in our 2012 land use element and also in our 2014 re-examination. Section 6 of the study identified transit-oriented development as a tool to promote a more transit-friendly river road, which would be more accommodating to pedestrians, bicycles, and bus riders. As defined by the study, TOD, or transit-oriented development, refers to land use and site design practices that encourage investment in walkable, transit, accessible, connected, mixed-use places along the river road corridor. And it did an analysis of Edgewater. And it said, currently the land use patterns require people to access their car for every trip. And I believe I stated this actually at the time of the last re-examination. But transit-oriented development would result in reduced congestion through lower travel demand and a reduction in conflicting traffic patterns. And that happens to be one of the cases here, that there are conflicting traffic patterns. Because there are pedestrians that are trying to cross the road, then you have the buses that have no bus pullouts, so the buses are blocking the traffic. So according to the study, transit-oriented development typically results in close integration with public transit, transit use by residents of developments, a mix of uses, high or medium density development to support the transit and mixes of uses, active pedestrian scale streets, bicycle-friendly streets and rail connections, increased connectivity, providing alternate routes of travel other than River Road, and reduced congestion and reduced traffic conflicts. So specifically, the recommendations for Edgewater are listed on the bottom of page 21. They recommended mixed-use zones, particularly residential, commercial, and office. That's exactly what we're doing with our mixed-use districts. Allow for high density by allowing taller buildings and a large FAR. That's also what we're doing, not only with our mixed-use districts, but also the incorporation of a new R5 zone into the zoning ordinance. Allow for shared parking. Shared parking only works in a mixed-use setting, but effectively requires less parking spaces while maintaining parking ratios, because some spaces are shared by different users. For example, office users who park in the day and residents who park at night. And I see that as a perfect example at a few of the developments that we have here in Edgewater. And so I've always been an advocate that really, with the exception of perhaps some of the residential developments, I do believe that the commercial and or mixed-use developments should have connections that include, lot to lot, rather than someone having to drive out to River Road to get into the next property. I mean, obviously that makes sense, and that will help alleviate some of the congestion on River Road. Also, no front setbacks and small rear and side setbacks, which create a more pleasant walking environment and increase the amount of developable land. Require connectivity to adjacent parcels, which is what I just talked about. And incentivize super stops for new developments. So super stops, as defined by the study, there are an addition of new or improved transportation around existing development. A super stop has covered bus shelters, bus pull-off zones, and other amenities. And to that end, since the time of the last re-examination meeting, what is very interesting is the fact that the New Jersey Department of Transportation put out a grant in March of 2014, which is right after our last meeting. And I was contacted by Millennium Strategies, and they were seeking out a grant for transportation alternatives. So right now, actually, the borough is working with Millennium Strategies and putting together a grant application for a super stop at Thompson Lane. And we have a concept plan already. I've been told that, quote unquote, the county likes it. And therefore we are ready to submit for May 15th. So this goes completely along the lines of this study, and also trying to alleviate some of the traffic on River Road. It's the first step, hopefully, in what will be future developments or redevelopments along River Road to help alleviate the traffic conditions. Just as a side note, if you do take a look at the study, there are more than just bus pull-out recommendations. There are other recommendations in terms of bicycle lanes, in terms of reducing lane widths to slow traffic, in terms of changing the timing of lights to allow pedestrians to cross the road in a safe manner, because sometimes there's not enough time for them to actually cross the road. So there's a number of things in here, but specific to Edgewater, it's very interesting because they have these very specific recommendations, which I quoted verbatim from the study into our re-examination. And everything that we have in this reexamination is supported by the study and vice versa. So I think that's a really important component of the reexamination. And so I think that that addresses most of the issues that were brought out at the time of the last meeting. So I am open to any questions regarding my testimony or anything contained within the documents.
How many questions out of one open, that's all, come back to the board. You gotta move this way. Okay. Open to the public? Anyone from the public? Mary, state your name, spell your last name and your address, please.
Just turn the camera. Okay.
Mary Hogan, 606 on Nichols Avenue. Thank the board for not passing the 5-minute rule, especially tonight, or whenever we're discussing a master plan review, because I think, because we're discussing such a large thing, I think the public should have more than 5 minutes to discuss that. So if you would, when you consider that, would you consider maybe doing exceptions when things that are coming up that require large amounts of time on behalf of the public? I would appreciate that.
Mary, I apologize, not to take any time away from you. Do you feel this board's ever not let you speak?
No, I don't
Okay.
have a
No, just-
problem. But as you said, a lot of the questions we ask are to the experts.
Right.
So when we're doing the 5 minutes, it's really the summary at the end where we're just giving our opinions and stuff. And I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And I also just wanted to ask if the procedure on this meeting tonight will be, we just ask general questions, then give a summary, or are you going to open again at the end for people that just want to give their opinions? You know how normally you would ask the expert
I think, I thought we'd just do it one time.
all together?
All together.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to,
Is that okay with everybody? Yeah.
okay. In terms of the report itself, I find it interesting that the mayor and council, when that first report came from the county, and Mr. Bartolomeo can confirm this fact, when that came down, the entire council voted against it. And part of why, if you actually read that report that comes down, they recommended things like in the north end of town, of River Road, taking 5 feet from the road in order to put in bikes and pedestrian friendly. We don't have 5 feet in the north end to do that. I mean, the 2 lanes will be totally on top of one another. At that meeting, what I said, and I still firmly believe, if you want to have safe pedestrian access, if you want to have safe bicycling, what this town needs to push for is to get the Hudson River walkway in place, a continuous walkway. And not only that, but we also need to push the boards and the mayor and council and everybody to get some kind of a federal, state, whatever, funding to help keep that walkway going, like after Sandy. These small complexes cannot afford to, do the major repairs that have hit certain areas of it. And if we had that funding, we're not going to get it from the Sandy funding. That's all going down the shore. We know that the shore produces so much money.
We tried.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, the shore produces so much money for the state. They're not going to, the walkway doesn't produce any money for the state. I mean, we don't have shops on the walkway and stuff. But it is an important part, and I believe if you're talking about safety, bicycle-wise, pedestrian-wise, that is our answer, is to put and push for the walkway. Because River Road is just impossible, we know, in terms of narrowness, as to where we're going to do it. When you talk about a super stop at Thompson Lane, my question is, where are you taking that from? What land are you taking that from? Is it going to be our parking lot? Is it going to be the water park? Where is that going to be? Certainly, I don't think Independence Harbor's giving us any land. I don't know.
Well, the answer is actually, it will come from the parking lot area.
So now we're going to lose parking in Shadyside.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, there's a concept plan right now, and it's a bus pull-off, which will require a certain amount of square foot. But I don't know how the engineer might reconfigure the parking that is actually there now. so that remains to be seen. But that would be the area that we're looking at currently.
But she does make a valid point about it.
May I?
About,
I saw an initial plans that went over.
Michael, I apologize. We'll call you next?
On the same subject.
Okay, I'll call you next. It's fine.
And so this is where, you know, it always, I mean, I love the county dearly, but it's always the town that is footing the property, and we just don't have the land to do that. We really don't. I mean, you're talking about putting, how many, 6 more high-rises, zoning for 6 more high-rises down, and then you're gonna take part of those parking spaces for the stores that you want those people to shop in. You know, I would think the county has to kick in something. I mean, I know it's their road. The other thing that I have a problem with is, I sometimes think people are a little schizophrenic, but the county has always taken the position that River Road is a highway that they will use when the George Washington Bridge gets blocked up to get the traffic to the Lincoln Tunnel. And when the Lincoln Tunnel gets blocked up, to get the traffic to the George Washington Bridge. They never cared about Edgewater, I mean, as a town. They saw this as a highway. Now suddenly they're looking for pedestrian friendly. I'm like, where is this coming from? I still think they see it as a highway to help the traffic from the George Washington Bridge and the Lincoln Tunnel. I don't know where that came from, because I certainly don't see them as a loving father image that's trying to help our population in Edgewater. That's not what the county is. That's not their interest. That's not what they're created to do. They're supposed to be control, you know, the traffic. That's what they're concerned about. Sorry, that's my thing on that. I also had a question on the on page 22. You refer to the COA. And number 2, and you talk about third ground regulations, et cetera, et cetera. Third ground regulations for COA, our presentation was done on September 14, 2005. We received a letter from COA rejecting our third ground. So obviously we're going to have to do a new, you know, third ground COA because it was rejected. And the first 4 things that they rejected in that letter, I don't see that any of it has even been addressed as to what they're doing, which includes the River Club, the Hudson Cove, and the Mariners Cove projects. That their affordable housing is not, the money that is not there in the account. We have not used that money to actually create units. And in addition to that, just recently, the owner and developer of the St. Moritz, Mr. Dives, asked the council to, because he was selling the building, to transfer 3 of the units up there to 38 COA, which is the property that's on Breland, Breland. And COA came back and said, no, you can't do that. And I know Ms. Gregory disagrees with that statement, because both 38 COA and the St. Moritz have been approved under previous applications that we have made. And they said, if you're taking it from here and putting it there, you're losing 3 units of affordable housing, because those projects have already been approved. And in addition to that, the other projects in town that have now requested that their affordable be put at 38 COA has never been approved by COA, as far as I know. No letter has ever been written on those. And we're to the point, and I don't know that John knows, but certainly Greg was, because I wrote to them. They were up to like 36, there's 39 units there. They were up to 36, and they didn't include all the units that had transferred their requirements to that building. I think it's already full. So now my question is, when we're talking about putting in high-rises, 6 new high-rises down in the Shadeside area, I mean zoning for 6 new zones, where are you putting those affordable housings? Where are those units going? It may be less kids, but when you're having 200 and 300 units in a building, you're generating a lot of COLA. Those people don't want to have them in the building. The St. Moritz, I read in the paper, the real estate person had figured it out. It was over $500,000 for each unit. Those 3 units was $1.5 million. So they're not going to want to put it on site. Where are you putting it? And to me, in terms of planning, all that is doing